Thank you, everyone. I'm so honored to be here. I've been listening to the stories, and they're all relatable. I've had so many aha moments, and I feel right now this is the season that I'm supposed to do what I'm doing right now. So I'm from Zimbabwe originally. I moved to Cape Town about 10 years ago, and I believe that, as in hindsight, Uplift a Sister is a product of my search for my God-given purpose, which I officially started on the 1st of May 2019, the day that I actually got married. And that on that day, I repurposed my blog called I Believe I Can Fly. And I committed to sharing my journey with my readers, my thoughts, my experiences, with the hope that I would help somebody find their path while I was finding my own. And the last post that I did in that first month was on sisterhood, which was inspired by my very dear sister friend, Karen, who's on the call. Treated me with so much kindness when I came to Cape Town, and she extended an invitation for me to stay with her. And I felt that as I wrote that, she empowered me. And I recognize her as my destiny helper right now. But I mean, the way that she helped me find myself in terms of pointing out that I had a writing gift and helping me start my blog, the old one, and also just cheering me on ever since. I didn't recognize that in my society or in my community. So as I wrote this, I felt that I could do much more in my circle. I could start, I could make an example. So I started the series called Uplift a Sister on my blog, where I celebrated 31 women in the month of June 2019 to just set the example. And I felt very fulfilled doing this. And why it's significant that I felt fulfilled in this case is that during that time, everything else in my life was a mess. The charming man that I'd married on the 1st of May was making me feel extremely unhappy, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was going on. I felt I was going crazy most of the time, and I really just found fulfillment and even a little bit of joy when I was writing. But I never shared this part of my story with anyone, and on the blog, as I promised that I'll be vulnerable and I'll share everything else except that. And I'm convinced to this day that this was my era, and this is mine and many of other women that are being abused in silence are making. So fast forward to July 2020, last year, a year and 2 months after I'd gotten married, I walked away from what I now recognize to be an emotionally abusive relationship. So when I finally shared the story with my friends, I immediately realized that I would have done things much differently if I had heard or if I had known of anyone else who had faced the same situation that I was facing. Because with emotional abuse, for me, it felt like it was in my imagination. It felt like I didn't know what I was talking about, which is why I said I felt like I was crazy half the time. And I felt like I wouldn't have faced dire consequences of being silent, which included self-harm, hysteria, loss of esteem, if I hadn't stopped sharing or showing up authentically, so to speak, because I was showing up as the strong person that everybody knows me to be. But in truth, I was actually just a wreck at home. I was crying all the time. I was harming myself, and I was feeling suicidal. And I was just basically living an unhealthy life. So the fact that I didn't know anyone who had felt like this, I realized that women generally are not being vulnerable. We are not being authentic in sharing our stories or talking about issues. We feel ashamed of our experiences, whether it be abuse, be it rape or divorce, whatever the case might be. In our society, even having abortions is shunned upon. So these experiences, is when we feel ashamed, we give them power to define us. We also, because we believe that these experiences give us they can define us, we also give the people we believe the same things to have power over us, and they define us through ignorance. So now this is where Uplift a Sister came about, because when I shared also with two of my friends, the co-founders of Uplift a Sister, they also had their relatable stories about their life experiences that they felt would have been helped somebody else that they shared, and they wanted to share. So we started this sisterhood movement where we help women recognize that they're not alone, that they're not in isolated experiences, and that we have to start openly discussing these taboo topics in our communities, especially in my culture. We don't talk much about how women are being abused in marriages, etc. So we started this broadcast on Uplift a Sister called Relatable Stories, which focuses on cultivating self-love. Because as I was doing therapy, trying to get back on my feet and understand my emotions, I realized that I'd been predisposed to abuse, so many other types of abuse that I actually experienced without knowing, because I lacked self-love. And I had serious validation addiction issues that were rooted in my upbringing. And having to unpack that and understanding that helped me realize that, yes, of course, there are people right now that I want to talk to that are victims that need to just know they're not alone. But also, there's people that have not yet gone into abusive relationships that are still predisposed to it, because they don't actually know what self-love is. They actually don't know how being predisposed to abuse looks like, because they don't understand it, because most of these things happen when we're young. They're caused by our environments. And so I'm making my life's mission to help raise awareness on all these topics, on these topics that all bring out the self-love that I want, or that I feel women should have. And so in an environment like Uplift a Sister, where we're encouraging each other, we're cheering each other on, we are not ignoring the fact that we need to acknowledge each other when we're doing the good things, and also supporting each other even if we're not in the same circles, and just speaking boldly about issues that affect women, and demystifying the fact that we still think that we can't talk about abuse, especially emotional abuse, in our society. So yeah, I'm so blessed and I'm so happy that I'm able to do this now. I mean, it's been 9 months since my divorce, but I feel so rejuvenated. I can relate to some of the speakers that were talking, where you when an experience like this happens and you feel like your world has been shattered, something changes when you've found that there are people with relatable stories that you can explain, you can articulate yourself now. It's not your imagination that you were going through what you were going through. You are able to find your inner power, and with your inner power, you can actually do more. So I've been seeing a lot of change in my life, and I want that for all women. And so I'm pushing for women empowerment in every space. And I'll be writing a book soon about my story, and I'm hoping that it will help somebody. So yeah, that is my story.